Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights Podcast with your hosts, Franklin Grimberg and Edward Walton, where we discuss Microsoft 365 security and Azure security news and products.
Good morning and welcome to the show, recorded on the 13th of October at 7:01 a.m. in the Australian Eastern Standard Time Zone. Welcome, Brody, Frank, and Rod.
Well done, Paul.
That's awesome. Very good.
Well done. Not bad.
In fact, I wish I was where you
on
did.
Camera and training and all that, giving trainings, but this is a little bit intimidating. So.
yeah. Not the biggest show out there, Paul, so it's okay. Don't worry about it. You didn't just intro us on CNN or anything.
Well, we probably have better ratings than they do right now, so that's
true.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was awesome.
Well, Paul.
And in fact, you're one day ahead of us. That's great, Paul. I just looked at I wish it was one day ahead. You're from the future.
Yeah, we time travel in Australia. That's how we do it.
Cool.
I like that.
Cool.
I like that
You got any lotto ticket numbers to go along with your backwards flushing toilets or what? Yeah. Just asking for a friend, you know.
What was the guy from Back to the Future, Biff? He had the sports almanac.
Yeah. And then he used it to create his criminal enterprise. Not gonna lie, it's brilliant.
It was brilliant.
That's exactly what Brody would do.
Yeah, you know, for the betterment of society, of course.
No, I see Brody as the Michael J. Fox character a little bit more. I don't know. Do you?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think so too.
Biff. I would say Biff.
You think
Evil Biff? Yeah, there you go.
Evil Biff.
So Rod, you're Doc then? Doc Brown?
If you want me to be, I mean,
Rod's definitely Doc Brown. Yeah, just grow out that hair a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit more. I am starting to get. The longer it gets, you can see I've got more gray on the side, so I'm gonna have to go bald again, I guess.
Rod, you're just one step closer to becoming a wizard. It's okay.
It's true. Actually, Frank and I pretty much have the same hairstyle at this point, so pretty good.
Yeah. But Frank's got a long way to go in terms of background memorabilia.
Yeah, he's working on that. You can tell he's got the hacked stuff and his Cupid dolls. And
it's minimalist, though. I like that.
It is minimalist.
It is. Mine's a little too busy.
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah. It can become kind of addictive after a while. I did actually add a few things. You can't tell what they are. I added a few things recently, just to make it interesting for people.
Like what? Do you want to go over it right now? Maybe we got half an hour.
No.
Would you like to give us the details of it?
Yeah.
It's just a
so
few
we could lose viewers.
Few little stickers back there, and I don't. Let's see. We got a couple chats in here. Yep, people are chatting away already. Anyway, so I guess we could go ahead and get started before we drone off into nothingness. Brody, what'd you do this week?
Sorry, I'm just laughing at Fish Grind's comment here. I just installed McAfee Quick Fix, but now my computer's acting weird. What do I do? That's the best comment yet. What am I doing this week? Well, I mean, so far I'm having just an amazing Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I don't know about you gentlemen, but this is the best Cybersecurity Awareness Month I've ever experienced.
Yes.
I'm super aware. So aware that I've signed up for all of the security tracks on Ignite, and because I have no time to watch them during the day because of customer calls, I'll just have to watch all the recordings sometime in the evening. So I can't wait to check all that out. I got to Rod, I'll let you talk all your Ignite stuff after, because you know all of it.
When you watch the recordings, do you watch them at normal speed, or do you have to do like 1.25, 1.5, 2?
Yeah.
I can't watch things at normal speed anymore.
Right. 1.2 is where I usually settle. That's the same thing I do with podcasts. And so it was funny when I first started listening to this podcast before I got to join the team. I listened to you at 1.2, just like every other podcast. And then when I actually get on the show and you hear like the intro music and talk, it's like, wow, you guys sound slower than I'm used to. So yeah, but if you don't if you crank up the speed to like 1.5 and it's the chipmunks, then you're not really paying attention. You're just laughing the whole time. So 1.2 seems to be a good middle ground. But what else did I work on? Oh, I helped judge some internal Microsoft hackathon projects today. That was really cool. I didn't get to actually attend hackathon because I was.
Did you judge mine, by the way?
No, I told them I was a security professional and I wanted to get on protect Microsoft or defend Microsoft with Sentinel, but that was full, and the gaming one, go figure. So I signed up for utilizing technology to create a more resilient world, which did actually have a few security items in there. And one of them was this team. And without getting into like the details, they basically increased the offline machine learning detection rate for Defender from Endpoint by like 25%. We have like a public number that we're tested against. I don't have that in front of me, and they were able to increase that with offline detection mechanisms. So that'd be good for like air gap networks, things of that nature. And I was like putting up my hand, like, yeah, that one, definitely that one. Because it's important, right? There's definitely a lot of infrastructure out there that can't connect to our cloud services at all times. So it's good to have good offline capabilities as well. So that was really cool. I'm working I got one lovely customer in the States that just seems to need all kinds of fun stuff, whether it's Defender for Endpoint or Insider Risk or identity protection, conditional access, et cetera. We're doing all of it. It's super fun. And a few customers up here in Canada I'm keeping busy with. It's pretty consistent and busy right now. I'm enjoying it. Things are good. And coming up, it's not next week, but the week after is, it's next week. Yeah. Next week is Calgary B-Sides. Calgary, and it's in person, first time in person. So the first 2 years were COVID remote, and so I'm volunteering. And I can't wait just to meet local people, right? Because I'm on the phone all day here at home, and I don't really get to go downtown too much anymore because there's no real need unless they go downtown because Microsoft is hosting something and they're giving free food, or I need to get my hair cut. It's basically the only reasons I go downtown these days. So I'm looking forward to mingling with the local Calgary and extended area security community, and I'm hoping to get like a donation lined up for them through our Give campaign. And I'm also hoping to maybe get on the board and start organizing that going forward. So that's all the fun stuff I got going on here.
I love B-Sides. B-Sides are great. In fact, going back to the Fort Wayne one, I think early next year. But I would love to go to all of them. I think they're awesome. The way they're put together, those little kind of local area community stuff for security, I think it's awesome. So that's good. I think, Brody, you and I had talked about me potentially coming up and us doing something for that, but Microsoft travel budgets as they are, I can barely walk outside my door and come back in. So,
you know what? If we do a great job on this podcast and spread the word about the goodness of Microsoft security and compliance and get those numbers up, who knows? Maybe next year, Rod, you'll have enough air miles to fly up here and join me.
If we make any more money off security, we should. I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that.
That's the reason we keep Broden on. He's the quintessential optimist, right? The reward of good work is more work.
Hey, by the way, welcome, Ed.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, Chris.
Here. Where are you? Where are you?
I'm in Detroit, Michigan.
Looks like you're in a Holiday Inn.
I'm in a Hilton.
I don't know. They've really downgraded your room, it looks like.
No art on the wall?
That's what the rats keep telling me. They walk by. Say, dude, you got to get your status up. I know. I got in once again. Flight delayed, but I'm in the Motor City. Weather's great. Got to the room just in the nick of time, it seems, and I didn't want to be rude. It wouldn't look well for me to invite Paul and beat down.
Not show up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I beat down his door to get him on, and then I don't show up. And plus,
he already complained about it.
That's just like going to dinner with me.
Yeah. I'm picking up bad habits. Yeah. So and plus, I don't want to get on his bad side because I'm going to be in his neck of the country and neck of the world next year, and I'd like to.
Awesome.
Cool. I'd like to have a beer with him. And
that'd be good.
And I don't want him to say, absolutely, Ed, I'll meet you here. And then he doesn't show up.
He doesn't show up. Yeah. Hey, before we go any further, we were just talking about this, Ed, before we got on. I think right at the beginning sometime. Next week, our show is the Halloween show.
No, the week after.
No,
the week after. Sorry. 2 weeks is the Halloween show. We've all decided we are going to dress up Halloween-y, I don't know, whatever. We're going to the nines. Brody thinks, I don't know, he's going to go out and buy a costume. I'm just going to make one.
I have several, especially the ones I fight crime with at night after hours. So
yeah.
I'll just repurpose one of those.
Yeah, so the Halloween we have to wear, and everybody's expecting it now, we have to wear some kind of costume on the Halloween show.
I will have a costume on.
Okay, very good.
And we're going to have a community poll for best costume. So you got to, it's a competition. All right, Edward? So you like competition, you got to go.
You got to know that Rod's got something there because he's got so much junk over there.
Yeah, this is good competition for you.
How are you going to top Rod? I mean, that's
exactly
the real question.
I do whatever it takes to win. Whatever it takes to win, that's what I do. And since you can't run anymore, Ed, this is a good competition for you.
It needs to be because you're right. I cannot run, so I'll never get a chance to challenge you in the near future. My knees are too bad.
This is your event.
Yeah.
This is your event.
And plus, I'm bored with just beating Brody and taking exams. So I got to find another outlet.
Nice.
This is it.
Good dig.
But I will be competing. So
I'm working. I'm gonna come as above average.
Don't tell us. Don't tell us.
Yeah, it better be above average, Edward, because we're bringing our A game. So
yep, A and B game, both of them.
But besides that, anyway.
All right.
You see this shenanigans I invited you to?
Yes, I.
Let's get the Ignite rundown. Yeah, Paul. Let's get the Ignite rundown.
So I know what you guys get up to.
Yeah. Paul, before we get started with Paul, let's get the Ignite rundown. I know you just added us over. I want to get the Ignite rundown from Rod, and then we'll move on with Paul. How about that? Sounds good?
Yeah. What piece of it do you actually want? Just the announcements? We had a lot of announcements today.
How many products were renamed?
No products were renamed. One product was joined another product family. System Center Configuration Manager is now part of the Intune family, which I've been warning people about for like 10 years. Right? So,
are they getting rid of the name Endpoint Manager and just going straight Intune?
Endpoint Manager is still a thing. So I'll just leave it at that.
I think it's two names. What is it? Is it Intune or Endpoint Manager? Just the same thing.
Intune is our cloud-based endpoint management platform.
All right. So what else changed names? So I know.
Nothing else changed names. Well, actually, that did kind of change name. It's now just Configuration Manager instead of System Center Configuration Manager. System Center is kind of a thing on its own. It's like on an island somewhere. It's like if you took all the people that are still 100% on-prem and put them somewhere, that's where System Center Configuration Manager would be. They can manage it.
If you go by that, though, when the even though it happened a while back, they're promoting this. There was a recent thing. The Risk IQ acquisition has two names. It's Defender for Threat Intel. And the other one is so long, I can't even remember what it is. But
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
External Attack Surface Management.
That's it.
There you go.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, the long one. Right.
That's interesting because we made some other announcements today, non-security announcements. Of course, it's Microsoft with our Surface and Windows and all that good kind of stuff. And we have some new Microsoft Office 360. Well, it's Microsoft 365 now. It's not Office apps. Oh, that was a rebrand. Sorry. Apps that are coming out, and they all have their own portal. And that was one of the first comments that I saw was, "Oh, great, more portals," because they do exist on their own portal, their own website for now. At least from a security perspective, I think we're getting more aligned and more centralized on our consoles and stuff. So that's all good.
Excellent work going into security.microsoft.com now with Edward's favorite, Defender for Cloud Apps, almost fully integrated. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff.
Almost to the point you don't even need Sentinel.
Yeah, you still need it. Which means you still need me. I'm still trying to, keep my job. I think the biggest thing probably that was announced today, I'm not going to go through everything. There were 50 things that were announced today, even from a security perspective. The biggest thing I think is the Defender for DevOps service.
Yes.
Right. Connecting DevOps to Defender for Cloud so that you can manage that workload and manage all the way from code development and execution all the way through the DevOps process so that folks can monitor those workloads. And there's a couple other things with Defender for Cloud, but that's the one that really stands out to me.
And compliance.
Well, compliance is there. There was some compliance and a better security score and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, don't have to get into that.
I think Defender for DevOps is a little misleading in what it provides, unless I have a complete misunderstanding. If you would do the recommended and the prudent thing about protecting your software development cycle, to me it seems like it's only detecting if someone has compromised, your pipelines, your push, your tree, and everything else. But that is the result of something else. Right, that is a result of maybe your identity being compromised, and or you have too much privilege in your developer, user instance, and not using something like PIM. Cause if you were using that or Visual Studio and you're tying it to your work identity and you're making people check in and check out, it's extremely hard to break it, right? And that's just before this Defender for DevOps. Now, if it's scanning, maybe I'm wrong, Rod. If it's scanning repositories for secrets, configuration stuff, then yeah.
They already do that.
Protection. Yeah, workload. Yeah, they do that. It's workload protection, just like all the other workloads that it monitors. And it's monitoring, right? We're not going to do anything.
Is Sentinel the data connector for Git? How is that going to be affected? Any for GitHub?
Well, I mean, Sentinel is still monitoring and looking at outliers, right? Some things that happen within that platform. So same stuff. And Defender will bring in even more information.
Cover both services. Those who don't want to leave Git and those who are in DevOps and those who may want to work both. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they're still calling it Azure DevOps. I thought it was Microsoft DevOps. MDO. But you can't because you have MDO.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
Defender, but it's Defender for DevOps. So it's
MDDO.
MDDO, yeah.
and I know the PM that's moving over to the Microsoft for DevOps product, the product owner. So maybe we can have him on the show maybe next month or something. Well, when we have some time. He's at Ignite this week, and then he's out next week. So
all right.
Good times. And if you are listening, valued listeners, or watching, valued live watchers, by the way, if you're listening and you're not watching us live, what is wrong with you? You get access to exclusive guests like Paul here. You're going to be able to ask him questions. You're going to be able to troll us in chat. Make sure you check us out live, 5 p.m. Eastern. But also we have a Discord channel, and it's super fun. We're going to post all of the goodness from Ignite in those channels. I'm actually spamming it right now. And it's a great community where you can go and communicate with other people who are fans of the show and also security professionals that help one another. So check us out. There's the plug.
Woo!
And I'm going to post this here. There is a short link for the book of news for this year, Microsoft Ignite 2022 book of news. That literally lists out everything that's being announced this week.
Yeah, and I remember the very first time I saw this. That was really cool. The PDF, and you can go through. Yep. And they had you could navigate the table of contents. I don't know if that feature's still inside of it if you get the PDF. Hey, but before I forget this, first of all, Paul, thanks for coming on. I may or may not be able to stay the whole time, but I wanted to say that I appreciate, Rod taking advantage or taking light at my ability to understand and write names. I saw the little post in the text. Guess who this came from? And it took Brody a minute, and I went back. Let me tell you something. I'm so stubborn. I didn't go back and correct it.
You don't need to. That's what makes you so endearing.
Look, I'm not changing. This is how I think his name should be spelled. regardless of what his mom said, his dad said, your name should be spelled like this. Right?
Okay.
I didn't do anything interesting this week at all, other than do pricing for two big customers, and one of them was a pricing exercise that made sense. The other one was just you got to ask how much it costs, you can't afford it type conversation. Nothing really technical this week. This is a short week for me. I'm on some time off. I'll be back next week. But like I said, it would have been rude and inappropriate not to be on the show for at least the introduction of Paul to come on the show. That's all that I got this week.
That's like being a car dealer at a Mercedes shop, and you know the people they're going to buy and not, right? You're like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are some major changes coming down to how Sentinel is being positioned and sold. Cannot be talked about on the show, but I got access to see ideas about that particular topic, and if they do it, good stuff. If they don't do it, it's the way things are, right? Frank, what did you do?
Absolutely nothing.
Oh my God. He always has to outdo me. I got 3 days of doing nothing. He decided I haven't done anything all week.
Or ever.
I'm gonna tell one more thing. So me being the good Samaritan that I am,
right? We all know that.
Trying to help Frank, I thought about submitting Frank for an MVP through the MCT channels.
Oh,
right,
I'm already submitted. I told you that.
Dude, with your luck of the draw, you need everybody submitting you.
Yeah.
I did change my title in LinkedIn to 10 times nominated MVP, but never accepted as a title.
And you should have done that, because now you're going to become a running joke. Right?
There's Frank again. Reject.
He's going to show up at the Oscars every year.
The Razzies every
and the
year.
winner is
Razzies.
Paul.
Yeah.
always the
Frank,
bride.
I seriously considered doing. I said, you know what? I'm going to nominate him through the MCT channel. Then I said, nah, I better not.
Yeah, you got better things to do. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Yeah, well.
Always the bridesmaid, right?
Well,
So,
Paul,
you-
what about
you
Paul
know,
here? Is
you know-
Paul an MVP?
No, I'm not. I'm actually being nominated by a colleague of mine, like literally this week, and then we'll see what happens.
Oh, that's great. We hope you all get it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Frank, am I missing something here? I thought you worked for Microsoft. What's all this talk about being an MVP?
I don't. Microsoft won't hire me. I've been trying to get a job there so I could take a vacation, but they just won't even hire me. So forget about the MVP. They won't even hire me. So
Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
Well, it's because every time his name comes up, the SharePoint engineering team gets word of it, and they shoot him down. Right?
I did see your form or whatever, Rod, about the watch list recommendations or something like that. That were you the one that put it out? Tell us what you think about watch lists or whatever. Do you remember that form that came out?
Oh, that's recent. Yeah, we're working on some new enhancements to watch lists. I think you must have an alert for the word watch list on any social.
It's his trigger word.
Yeah.
It's his trigger word. Well, let's get to our guest, Paul, who's
Yes.
been waiting patiently. Edward, why don't you do the introduction before your wife flies all the way over there to tell you that it's dinner time?
Purposely, she won't be here till tomorrow.
Oh.
I
Smart.
bought all the flights, so she couldn't get up here today. On all the airlines.
Just
Now
charge
we
you for
know
the
your
card.
wife definitely does not watch the recordings of this podcast.
Wow, the chat just lit up. She must be on the chat.
She might be. If it says dead meat, that's her. So I'd like to introduce Paul. Paul, I'm not going to give Brody and Frank and Rod material by mispronouncing your name because I won't hear the end of it. So I'm just going to say Paul S. I'm terrible at names. And Paul is a top technologist, a security practitioner, and he paid me on LinkedIn. And I think this is the longest from the time we connected to actually nailing down the show, all on me. I was like, hey man, I hope I'm not bothering you. I was like, oh, I keep forgetting. But he is doing the good thing in the land down under, Australia, and I will be there next year. Him and I are going to drink some suds, and we're going to catch red bat spiders with our hand. And we're gonna herd dingoes around, we're gonna and what's the other deadly creature over there? Like everything's deadly over there.
Drop bears is the running joke, right? So if you look it up on Google or something, you get these pictures of koalas that with blood around their mouth, right, having eaten a person, right? So koalas are they're not bears, and they live up in the trees, and they move really slowly, and they will never hurt anybody. They do have claws. You don't necessarily like claws, and wouldn't necessarily want one to sort of land on your face, but they don't drop. They're not drop bears. That's a running joke to scare away the Americans.
I don't know, man. It seems like my luck. Any animal that has never harmed a human decides it's going to harm me. Like the most cuddliest creature. All of a sudden, I'm coming around. A sloth is running fast, trying down the road to get me. So the drop bears. I think I did hear a reference about that, and it was a meme. It was, by the time you look up, it's too late. You see this bloody koala bear falling on the tree. Yeah, he's on this guy's neck, just biting him. That was funny. So Paul, koalas are drop bears. Go ahead and please. Well, Frank, who started the show off? Who did my job? Who
Paul did.
I did.
Oh,
I did.
Well, great. We had a professional do it. Okay, I'm good.
From the future.
A terrified professional, but yes, it was professional.
So, Paul, please introduce yourself, what you do, who you are. If much information you want to disseminate out to our listeners so they can keep in contact with you, follow you, promote the brand, and tell them what we're going to discuss security-wise today.
Cool. So it's Paul Schnackenburg in English. It's originally a German name. I'm from Sweden, but I've lived in Australia for 24 years now, or something like that. So I run my own business as an IT consultant, and I'm helping out small businesses around the place here. And I've had some interesting customers over the years, or clients over the years. Also work part-time as a trainer. So I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and I've been delivering, certification preparation training for, you guys have talked a lot about the different SC exams, for instance. I've delivered SC 200, 300, and 400 training over, the last, year and a half since they came out. And the reason I wanted to come on the show is because I'm always small business focused, right? So my clients are small businesses, and it's always been an interesting conversation because Sentinel and Microsoft, fairly big business focused in general. So here I sort of wanted to give that little sort of angle here and sort of discuss it with you guys and hear what you thought. So I was listening to the Richard Diver episode back in 113, and he talked a little bit about small business security and the challenges that are sort of unique to that space compared to the enterprises. And then of course on 107 you had Zorik on, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the guy who did the KQL query a day for a whole year, and then landed a job at the Dart at Microsoft. I thought that was pretty cool. So, and he's an Australian, of course. So he's from the other side of the country, though. So he had to get up even earlier. This is a reasonable time at 7:30 in the morning for me. And so that's sort of the introduction. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I've done for a couple of my clients and I've got a wish list of features I want you guys to feed back to the product team as well. So
send them my way. You got the right person on the call, Rod Trent. They'll listen to him. If I tell them, they'll do the opposite, or they'll maybe remove the feature. So, quick question. You mentioned some of our previous guests. Big shout out to Zorik. Big shout out to Richard. Always welcome to come back on. How did you hear about our show? We never. You and I were conversing in exchange, but you never told me how you heard about our show.
I've been listening for quite some time. I honestly don't remember how it came up. Probably, if I had to guess, I would say it was Twitter somewhere. And Sentinel, and then came up in my feed or something like that. Could have been in a newsletter. Could have been in another security show. Have you guys been mentioned on the Azure Security podcast? Maybe that's where I heard it. Could have been there. That's too long ago. I can't remember what I did.
We were mentioned over there. Wow.
Hey, they're cool over there.
Well,
Cool.
as an example of what not to do.
Right. And then we got these scrubs over here who don't run their whole podcast with DevOps.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Paul, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Securing small to medium-sized businesses and small to medium-sized corporate have always been a passion of mine because it seems like they don't get enough love. And I think a lot of security practitioners say, hey, you could buy our products and use it too. You know, what I understand, the obvious limitations have been documented. Everything, from case studies by, Pokemon and all those is, even if you could implement the security solutions, sometimes they're out of reach on a cost basis. And then even if you get the thing, you got to find the skill set to run the thing, right? Which often is more costly than just buying the thing. So I think
much more costly. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to present, and I'm trying to find the recording. The Microsoft did a Small Business Alliance Security Symposium last week, so I got to go to that, stand up, say a couple words, and but mostly passing out coffee to all the small businesses that came in. But it was fun to understand their challenges, and almost to a company, no one really mentioned budget. They mentioned we can't find people. And they are reluctant to train people because I heard off the record numerous owners, founders, CEOs of these SMBs. The minute we skill our person up, the big boys take them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And because we can't even pay, he said we can do all the other things: unlimited vacation, this and that, unlimited paternity time, but cash is king. And I think that's very sad, especially if larger organizations are purposely pilfering people. And I know everybody's individual career path and trajectory is their own. I've been there. I would switch jobs all the time, not for money mostly, but because I want to learn another skill set to get really good. So, but hey, back to you, sir. I want to hear what you got going on with this.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is a challenge for small businesses. I mean, to me, small businesses sort of fall in two categories, and I have both types of clients. So my biggest client, they have their own IT team, right? So they've got, 5 or 6 people or something in the IT department. So they do all their own day-to-day stuff, which is good because they got like 450 people or something. So they're quite big for a small business. And they certainly have the budget. But I think the challenge very often in the security space is that the security tools are complex. They're hard to configure. There's lots of settings, right? There's a company called Attack IQ, I think, and they do what they call threat-informed defense. So, and I'm not plugging them. I don't get any kind of financial benefits from these. They don't even know I exist. So I better point that out. But they do automated tests on your infrastructure. So you set up different tests for, is your endpoint going to catch this? Is your network protection going to catch this? Is your firewall going to catch this? And then you run those tests on a regular basis, a bit like a penetration test, automated. And then you get your reports back. And what they find in their data, and this is big businesses as well, they find that many, many, many times the protections, the controls fail because they're not configured correctly, right? Because it takes a lot of skill and a lot of experience to configure those things correctly. And that's hard. And it's definitely hard for small businesses, right? They need something that just works. Now, Microsoft, I think, has sort of found their footing over the last year and a half when it comes to this. Releasing Defender for Business was fantastic. So in case, obviously, you guys know, but if there's some listener on the call who does not know, Defender for Business is Defender for Endpoint. It is not P2. It's missing a few of the advanced features, but essentially it does everything that a small business would want. It's not P1, right? So Defender for Endpoint P1 is fairly limited, whereas Defender for Business is great if you're under 300 users.
Have you seen a uptake in that? Sorry to interrupt, but have you seen customers excited about that?
Well, so the other type of customer I was leading off with a big customer, and then I was going to talk about the smaller clients. They don't have their own IT. It's me. And they don't get excited about anything like this. They just want it to work. They have no idea. Like, I can tell them and they go, oh yeah, that sounds good. Let's install it. You know what I mean? Like, they're not like they're business premium customers. So they're going to get it for free as part of the package, and you just install it and there it is. So
But happy to hear that Defender for Business for the under 300, you're seeing upticks in that, to Rod's question.
Absolutely.
Which exactly why Microsoft positioned it that way, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah. Look, bundling that in with Business for Business, Microsoft 365 Business Premium was a great move. That was just a great move. It's really that's going to give you good protection. I mean, it's going to kill off the third-party antivirus business in small businesses, but that doesn't really matter. I think it's a great tool, and it does the job. So that's that. And I suppose the other thing I really did want to talk about is how good Sentinel is. So I started looking at Sentinel when it was in public preview, and it seemed like the tool to solve the problem I've always had, and that is visibility. So when you're a small business like my other clients, you really have like three choices. One, you sort of assume that your IT service provider, like me, your managed service provider, is going to take care of security. And the MSPs of the world do try, but it's very hard because it's not really their core skill set. And then they could hire a managed security service provider, an MSSP, and they could have them do the job, but they're not cheap. And then the sort of the third option is just ignoring the problem and hoping it doesn't happen to them. So,
right. Assume breach, right? Just assume breach and don't worry about it. Yeah. Work on resilience.
We follow zero trust. We do assume breach, and we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, we just assume we're going to be breached all the time. So just be ready. Be ready to recover. And especially managed service providers, maybe for SMBs. Varying levels of quality, and I'm not trying to call anybody out here, but if it's a managed service provider that services SMBs, the quality of the individual working for that managed service provider can vary based on the fact that they have different salary expectations and growth opportunities versus a larger organization. And let's be honest, if you get really good at threat hunting, you're probably not sticking around at an SMB managed service provider, right? You're going to get into the big 6-figure gig somewhere because you're in demand across the board. So that's
exactly it. This is exactly what Ed was saying before, right? And it is very tricky, particularly as small businesses are generally served by other small businesses. So that skill challenge is huge and it would make sense. Like, if you become a security expert and you were in demand, you're obviously going to go where the big opportunities are, and the big opportunities are in the big businesses where you get to try out all the cool stuff. So it's a big challenge. So I set up Sentinel. Oh, excuse me. So I set up Sentinel for a couple of my clients, in particular one which is a school. About 125 people there, say 100 students and 25 staff. And I've been having it running there for over 2 years. And now it's brilliant. So they are on A5 security. So they get basically all the E5 stuff, but in an academic license. So we got Defender for Cloud Apps. We got Defender for Endpoint. We got Defender for Identity on their 2 domain controllers. All that feeding into Sentinel is just fantastic visibility. And then, of course, since I'm a one-man SOC, what I have done is I have set it up so it sends me an email. So every alert shows up as an email, or every incident shows up as an email in my inbox. And that then means I can sort of triage and deal with it wherever I am. As soon as I check my email, I can see it. And I'm sure there will be people now going, oh my God, you should have a 24/7 SOC, and you should have a 5-minute response time, and you should have people looking at the console all the time. And you can, but that costs a lot of money. So for this business, that was not an option. So we ended up here, and it's working really, really well. Caught a few things over the last couple of years, and I just really enjoy Sentinel and the way you can get in there and see what's happening.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? I like you, I've worked with some smaller companies as well. I think I've mentioned this a couple times, but I worked with an organization. It was literally one person that did everything for this, large organization, and they wanted to use Sentinel. And if they took the time up front, they took 2 or 3 months or something to get this working exactly the way they want with the automation they needed to alert them and things like that. Well, once you get that set up, you can do that, right? You can go about your business, do the other things you need to do, and it's going to capture those things, those outliers that you need to be aware of. So, yeah, kudos. That's
and especially
awesome.
for small and medium businesses, Rod, like we need those protections and automations built in, because the CISO is also the sysadmin, is also, help desk sometimes, right? So we need those tools working in an automated fashion to mitigate the majority of issues that are out there, so that individuals, whatever their hat is, and in an SMB you can wear many hats, to enable them to work with the business and generate revenue and not be stuck in a rut managing security issues all the time. So it's an important aspect of one man SOC, to your point, Paul.
What type of incidents did you run into, and how did you resolve them?
That's a great question, Frank. Let me see. We've had a couple of password guessing attacks. So Azure Active Directory Identity Protection caught those. We've had.
It's blurry. My camera's blurry. Oh, I think I fixed it. Okay, I must have smudged it earlier. Okay. Carry on, Paul.
That was a good question, actually. Now I've got to try to remember here what we've had. We did have somebody's password being compromised. We did have somebody getting in with somebody's password about, 9 months ago. That was interesting, actually, because it came through the TI feed from Limo before they disappeared. So it was actually a malicious IP address was identified that way. So caught that one and reset passwords. We've had a couple of those.
What about public-facing RDP? That seems to be a common thing with SMBs sometimes. It's like, I'll just remote into my stuff from home.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be doing my job if I allowed that. There is no public-facing RDP for sure, mate. I do get RDP alerts, right, where the occasional admin on site at the school logs into a server they haven't logged into for 3 weeks. Of course, I get an alert saying, "Hey, this is an unusual RDP login," but that's always benign. Yeah, no public RDP. The other client I've got is a financial. They're an accounting firm, and that we actually have a remote desktop session host server running in Azure. So that is RDP on the internet, but they all are protected with Duo. So you're not logging in there unless you've got a Duo setup.
Cool. Okay.
Most of.
One second, Frank. Are you leveraging Defender for Office on the messaging front with a lot of these customers? Or
Yep.
Okay, yeah, good stuff. So, because obviously that's a major threat point still, unfortunately, people
completely.
Yeah,
and that's really the big deal here. The big deal for me, and obviously you guys know this, is the integration, right? It's all in the security console. It's all security.microsoft.com, and it all integrates, right? Because you don't get that with other security tools. And I know enterprises can make that happen with a lot of gluing together of their different security products, but ain't nobody got time and energy for that in the small business space. So the fact that it comes built in is really important.
So most of the attacks that you're seeing are basically attacks on M365 with the identities, Azure AD identity that they're going after, or email. What have you gotten from Defender for Endpoint? Anything that's interesting?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we had one, it was a malicious Minecraft for Education installer. There you go. That was probably the
Oh.
most exciting one, where I actually had to do a bit of investigation. Not entirely clear how it ended up on the server. I did speak to the principal. She was the one who downloaded the installer, put it on the file server, and then some months later, so 4 or 5 months later, one of the students tried to run this installer and didn't realize, because we do install it with Intune, so they don't need to run their own installer to install it, right? Plus, they're not administrators on their own machine, of course, so they shouldn't be able to install anything. But anyway, endpoint protection, Defender for Endpoint lit up like a Christmas tree and caught this thing. And then I started doing some investigation. And this is when I learned a little bit more about Defender for Endpoint, because I'm going, why is all this PowerShell stuff running here? What is this weird stuff? And then after a bit of investigation, that's Defender for Endpoint doing its thing. So it runs a whole heap of PowerShell and stuff and obviously if you're an experienced threat hunter, you would know that was not something dangerous, but it took me a little while to get there.
So with your smaller customers, what have you talked to them about utilizing Azure services for, backups and everything like that? So get it off of the current machines. And so what do you tell them about that?
That's a great question, and there is a span here. So the accounting client, for instance, they're completely in the cloud, and they only have endpoints, and then everything else runs in Azure. And we're moving them over to Windows 365, Enterprise, and they're going to have desktops like that rather than the remote desktop session host server. For the school client, I have thought about Azure Backup, but frankly, it doesn't quite make sense in their case. You guys don't know Australia, but we got terrible broadband. We had idiot government for 10 years, and we have terrible broadband. So it's very hard for them to get any kind of decent bandwidth. So that's number one. So I do external hard drives. We do both host-based and in-guest backups. Using Windows Server Backup, basically, on their Hyper-V servers. So they got 2 Hyper-V servers with Hyper-V replica between them, and they're 2 different buildings. So if one building burns down, the other one is hopefully still there. And then we do backups, and then we rotate those backup hard drives off-site every day. So should they be hit with ransomware, provided everything has worked the way it should, and somehow the ransomware gets past, Defender and all the other protections, we should have a backup from the day before, and in 2 different formats if required. So, yeah.
Have they ever asked, how long would it take to get us back up and running again?
They have not asked, but I have told them.
there's all those measurements that they have, and I forget what they're called now, RPO
and RTO, yep.
RPG and all that other fun stuff.
That's not one of them. Recovery point objective and recovery time objective, Frank. You know what those
role playing games. That's fine.
RPG, yeah. The missile launcher.
So you talked to them about that when you were talking to small businesses, and that's defined.
Yeah. They don't talk in those terms, but having them realize that, because they were like, well, we don't worry about ransomware, do we? Because we got backups. And I'm like, yeah, but if we actually did get hit and we had to restore the whole school, right, or the whole school service system, you're still looking at a day or 2. But they're very laid back. They're sort of a bit of an alternative school, and they went like, yeah, okay, we'll live with it. If it happens, we'll live with it. So
being a small business, there's a lot of threat intel sharing, associations or whatever, for the financial industry. Then there's one for education. Do they get involved with that so you can feed Sentinel with the threat intels for the specific threats, let's say, to education?
No, not really. I mean, now that Limo's gone, I'm looking around for alternatives to feed in some generic threat intel, but nah, they don't. And again, they sort of rely on me doing all of that. I do all their IT. It's from, hey, the printer isn't printing, to, hey, this laptop screen is broken, to, hey, we got a virus warning on this machine. It's all in the one, which is why I sort of like Sentinel.
So, Paul, as someone who's done all the IT before, can you share with us how violent you get with printers sometimes, and how that actually does work when nothing else seems to?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Look, it's a challenge. I mean, it's I did think, the other day, I thought, I don't know whether you remember the scene in Lord of the Rings in the first movie where Bilbo describes to Gandalf how he's like butter who's spread too thin because of him having the ring and getting unnaturally old and being butters that spread too thin over too much bread. And I do sometimes feel a bit thin as I've spread over all these different things. I want to get to my wish list.
Oh yeah.
So yes, tell us your
so Rod, here you go. Yep. So first of all the built-in analytics rules, I want a button to update them. Right? You guys.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. That would be good because I know Gary, who's been on the show a few times. He's got a nice script that you can run and update them all. But PowerShell's a hassle. Can you just give me a button, please?
Analytics rules. Yeah. I could probably, here's the funny thing. I could probably go back through one of these notepads and find that somewhere, or somebody said that as well. No, just go ahead. I won't get on a soapbox.
You're not going to defend every grievance? So that's too bad. Okay.
No.
We'll keep going.
Well, I mean, the challenge is if you do customize them, but again, that makes sense in an enterprise. They got a SOC engineer sitting there and fine tuning the rules and doing all that. But for me, I just want to keep them up to date.
So I will soapbox for a second. So you are a perfect case, right? Perfect example of what I need to present to our engineering team. You're an individual that works primarily with your customers, and your customers work in the UI. They don't have time for this GitHub repository. They don't have time to roll things out in a DevOps process. That's not what they do. They need a button like that, right? So, and we've had this discussion a lot of times, and every time it has resulted in, well, this is our recommended way, right? You know that there's updates, do it through the GitHub repository, or do it through this script, or do it this way. And it absolutely, our customers should be able to use this product no matter what level they're at, right? And I absolutely agree. And hopefully somebody's listening to me, because I will rant about this in front of those people as soon as I see them. So
great. I'm really happy. Let's see if we can make that button happen.
All right, number 2.
Next up, an Android mobile app, or a mobile app for.
I was going to actually ask this earlier when you were talking about getting the email and then going to take a look at the Sentinel environment for your customer. It would be super nice. We do have an Azure portal mobile app, but it doesn't integrate with Sentinel. Sentinel can be run in a browser, and I've tried it multiple times. I have a Samsung tablet, right? That's larger than a mobile device, larger than a phone, and it's still not great. Still not a great experience. So absolutely, there is a customer, and I have to go, not a customer, but a partner, and I have to go back and find this. We do have, and I talked to them about a year ago. I don't know where they're at this point. I need to follow up, but they were creating a Sentinel app for mobile devices. So I have to go back and check that. But yeah, that would be absolutely cool. And and to me, I think it's less about the app and more about the experience. If you go into Sentinel today, this is something that I'm kind of spearheading at Microsoft for my impact this year, trying to make the Azure portal itself more kind to people with eyesight issues or whatever. Make it a little bit, the interface needs to be a little bit more fluid. It's not great, right? So if we could actually solve that for Azure, the Azure portal itself, I think it would lend itself to Sentinel, but we'll see.
Oh, yeah, okay, what you're saying. Yep, that could work. The final one, and I would like, so in Defender for Endpoint, the full one, P2, if you're big enough, you can have the Microsoft Threat Experts, so you can escalate into somebody.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I would like to have on a, fixed price basis, so I knew how much the button press is going to cost me. When I get to a complex issue and I go, oh, shit, we really are under attack, right? I'm getting alerts in Sentinel from different things. I need some help right now. I'd like a button in Sentinel to go, this is going to cost me $300 or whatever. But if I press this button, there's going to be somebody there to help me out.
Yeah, that threat experts thing is hugely expensive. It's intended for large organizations, so
Mhm.
it's too expensive for what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it'd be nice.
But yeah, I absolutely agree, particularly for an company like yourself, right, where you are dealing with smaller companies. You don't want to break the bank on one. I would just say contact Mac Zorich and just have him do it for you. But
Well, but there's this thing. Let me jump in here. So there are specific companies that are set up to deal with true incident response, right? And they don't do what you do. And so they are set up to take contracts through you to get your call to do actual incident response, then how you actually deal with the contractual arrangements for making that happen. Don't expect your customers should not expect you to be able to do incident response, true incident response, for what's going on. Because I have to say that incident response is just something you have to be doing kind of every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not that I don't think that it's overly complex. It's just you got to be doing it every single day. It's just one of those.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's literally it's also just guidance to let you know if this is absolutely something more critical than what you're looking at. Sometimes, right? Somebody wants to get another set of eyeballs on there, like, oh, this is a war room situation, or this is fine. We can just remediate in this manner. So yeah, I absolutely get that.
Yeah. That's exactly it, right? I'm completely with you, Frank. When you get to actual incident response, like we actually got owned, then it's up to the business to say, and I would obviously work with a company, and I've got a few lined up that we would hire to do the actual incident response. But I meant the step before, right? Where you go, oh, this is looking really bad. It'd be great to have another set of eyes on this right now. So.
Yeah. So even so, I can, even though we don't use tiers anymore, I kind of feel like you're performing tier 1, tier 2 stuff, and when it gets, should it be escalated to tier 3 is your question.
That's right.
Once again, you're going to still have to talk to one of those incident response companies that hopefully is not going to be yes to every single one of your questions. Now, I've spent a lot of time with people in our own Discord that I basically walk them through the process to do that sort of analysis, whether or not it should be escalated or not. I can tell you right now, one of the goals of Who Hacked, if you have not played the game, is now it's actually available for individual play now. You don't have to sign up and go on a team or any of that sort of stuff.
Oh, great.
So you can go out to that now. And one of the goals of that game is to get you to start understanding that, hey, all the tools are here for me to use. I know how to do this, and then start building out incident response plans based upon, yes, everything is there for you to look at and understand how to put things together and move forward. So I recommend playing Who Hacked just so you kind of feel more confident about that. But most of the time when I talk to tier 1, tier 2 people, especially that have the SC200 experience, they are very capable of making that call without bringing in another company to make that decision or have that extra set of eyes in there. So, because there's a lot of information there for you. So, to me, most of the time in SC200, those students, it's like they just need the confidence to go back and just put the pieces together logically and say, yeah, this is something good, this is something bad, and they go from there. Hopefully you enjoyed the SC200 material when you were teaching the class, even though it could have been out of date a little bit, but go from there. But yeah, so do the Who Hacked, and the entire, one of the goals of Who Hacked is for people to start understanding that they need to start building these incident response plans based upon what they're seeing. Microsoft has put out, here's what you do in this situation, right? But realistically speaking, it's more along the lines of everybody expects, hey, I can actually do this incident response plan step by step, right? It's never like that. You're going to have to see what's going on in your environment and then make the decisions and piece together that information, even at tier 1, tier 2, to move forward and then call in the IR firm to do that.
You notice Frank stopped just short of offering his own help. So
No, I don't
I know.
do incident response on a daily basis now, so I would not even recommend myself, because a lot of incident response is knowing what's normal, right?
Yeah.
So what's not normal, and so since I'm not looking at it every day anymore, I don't know what's normal and what's not normal, right? Or abnormal. What's abnormal, right? So unless I was going back doing that on a daily basis, then sure. But other than that, that's why I say a lot of it's just knowing, what's normal, what's not normal, and you have to be looking at things every single day to be able to understand that real fast.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting you bring up SE200, because that's probably the last thing on my wish list here, and this is more of a generic one. Although I will direct it at you, Frank. With the SE200 training material and nearly all other training material for Sentinel, it's very much about this is how you set it up, this is how you configure your analytics rules, this is all that stuff, right? And that's great. Like, that obviously is the starting point. You got to get it up and running. But the next step is what I would like, and I'm sure it exists, I just haven't found it yet. I would like this is what you do when you have an incident. So in a virtualized environment, right, an environment where you're not actually going to be you're not working with production data, I would like to see, okay, this incident has been raised, and then I go and do the investigation steps. I add my bookmarks, I add in other things, I do whatever, right? And I'd like to have that as a training place.
Go do Who Hacked.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
Then you're gonna see that there'll be multiple episodes of that with different scenarios. So just play that, and then you'll get more of the feel.
Okay.
The good and bad about SC200 is I've got 4 days to put together content that has to cover everything that is the learning objectives that come from the study guide or whatever, the skills measured, right? So that has to be there. Then from my background, okay, so you do want to talk about how you do an investigation, how if you take a look at the main lab for Sentinel, right? Okay, something bad has come in. What is the process inside Sentinel that I'm going to go and find this information and build those KQL queries to find out what I'm looking for and moving forward. So I think that how far do you want to take that class in dealing with actual incident response procedures? I think that there's still a lot of good industry contributions that are going out there that will help you deal with that more than we can cover in the class. And those sort of things have been out for years. So I don't see SC200 competing against what to do with an Active Directory, full breach. What that sort of information is already out there. So what is specific about Sentinel for that piece that you're doing, and so on. So yeah, I don't know if that helps or did not help, but play Who Hacked.
No, it does. No, it does explain it. I have looked. I noticed that you haven't had this guy on the podcast yet. So here's a recommendation for another guest, Roberto Rodriguez. He works at Microsoft. His handle is Cyber War Dog, with the E and 3 and the O in the dog being a 0. He's a threat hunter, I think, and he's got a GitHub project he's got a couple. One called Open Threat Research, where he publishes data that you can use to do threat hunting in, so sanitized data. And he's also got a Sentinel to go, so a way of spinning up a Sentinel deployment with a single button, just deploy to Azure. And he's got a whole heap of different ones with different scenarios in them, so that you can then go and do your learning and training in there. So he's definitely somebody there. Thank you, Rod, for publishing my link there to the ebook. So I recently wrote an ebook just to round off this whole Sentinel and Microsoft 365 Defender, etc. Conversation we've had. I recently wrote an ebook, and the link is in the chat, and that's completely free. So
Cool. Thank you. We put that
You
in the
can-
chat, and we'll make sure that also goes in the episode notes for the podcast as well for our audio listeners.
comes with an Excel spreadsheet with a checklist of all the different things that you need to do in securing a Microsoft 365 tenant, because that's another thing in the overall conversation here, not Sentinel specific. Microsoft 365 is there's a lot of places to configure security, and Secure Score helps because it gives you a list, but it's still not the be all and end all. So we put together this ebook, and I think it's helpful if you're responsible for securing a Microsoft 365 tenant.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We can't wait to check that out. We'll make sure everybody gets an opportunity to review that as well.
So I have an interesting Australia story for you. You might enjoy this. We were talking about dangerous things at the beginning that Ed wants to go capture while he's there with you, other than a pint. So my best friend has family that live in Coonawarra. It's like near the southern tip of Australia. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Lives in Coonawarra. We stayed there for a couple months after graduation. Obviously, the koalas and all that good kind of stuff, which they smell horrible. But the thing I am most frightened of in my life, still to this day, are emus. Because I tell you what, we were driving along. I forget where we were driving at. We're out in the middle of nowhere. The kangaroos are fast and all that stuff, but we saw this herd of emus out there. So we got out of the car and went to go chase after them. And oh my goodness, they just got mad and chased us back in the car. We dove in the windows of the car to get away from these things. They're like pecking on the windows trying to get at us, man. They're brutal. Still, today, I have nightmares.
They're big suckers. They're big suckers for sure. Yeah, and everybody thinks kangaroos are really cute, right? But if you meet some of the big ones, it's like, yeah, you don't want to get close to those guys. I don't know whether you've ever seen them the males box each other.
YouTube, just something.
And
like
they
that.
kick with their legs. I mean, if you got kicked by one of those guys, that's curtains. I think that's.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we got little cute wallabies. That's about a couple of feet high, like a mini kangaroo. They're very cute.
They're cute. And what's the birds that sound like the jungle birds? What's the black and white bird? Oh, all of them. I remember sitting there. We were eating somewhere and seeing one of those birds. And I used to watch the old Tarzan movies, right? You hear those huge birds in the jungle. And you're like, oh my goodness. I was sitting there eating at a picnic table, and one of those things did its noise, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a jungle bird.
Well, there is a lot of jungle here. The funniest ones are kookaburras. I don't know whether you've ever heard of kookaburra, but they laugh, and there's like 5 or 6 of them generally sitting on a line, and they laugh in unison, and it sort of travels along the line of them. So they often laugh in the morning. So you wake up in Australia to kookaburras laughing. So
there's a song about that.
Sing it, Blurry.
Nope.
Sing it, Blurry.
Nope, not going to sing it. Nope. Not doing it. Well, Paul, that was super fun. Thanks for coming on. Learned a ton. It's always great having insights from folks who are working with SMB customers and how Microsoft Security Stack lines up with that. Hey, do your SMB customers, before you go quick, do they ever leverage anything in the Purview Compliance Center, or are they mostly focused on security? What do you see in that area?
That's an interesting question, actually. Yeah, they do. So the financial services customer actually spun up what used to be called Purview, the Azure Purview before everything else became Purview. Scan my database and find sensitive data. They actually spun that up in Preview because I'm a member of a few preview groups, private preview groups at Microsoft, and did run that against their main SQL database there and got some results back in the day. But in general, it's mostly DLP, a little bit of information protection, but they're not under the regulations where they really need to go hard on that stuff. So that's why it hasn't really been on the agenda as much. But I do put in, which is one of the things I recommend in the book, is putting in like a basic DLP rule just to see what kind of sensitive information the business is sharing by email. So you can go back to them and say, "How are you aware that?" Oh, excuse me. In the last 6 months, you've sent 15 emails with bank account numbers and credit card numbers and driver's license numbers or whatever in it, and then they can come back with that. So
Cool. That's good info. Yeah, I wondered how that was being leveraged in SMB space. I started working in that area after I had stopped supporting SMBs, so that's good insight. But yeah, to your point, I mean, what's driving enterprises to adopt a lot of this is privacy and data handling policies due to fines and penalties, right? And if you don't have maybe the stick to push you along that journey, then maybe you're not as willing to invest the time into it, especially when you have other priorities, right? So makes sense.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Paul. That really gives a really good perspective, and I appreciate your feature request too, because that gives me some more fuel for the fire.
Well, that'd be great. That'd be good. No, this was really, really fun. I mean, I'm way over here in Australia, and you guys are sort of all working for the mothership, and it's kind of cool to come on the show and talk and say hi to Ed, even though he disappeared quickly. So,
well, and I think you gave Frank a really good tip, if he caught it or not, about how to become an MVP. You just write KQL queries till Microsoft hires you, apparently. So,
yeah, just be nice, right, Frank? Yeah. Be nice. Oh, cool. Well, you plugged your ebook. That's great. Anything else you want to bring up or share with our audience before we call it a day here, Paul?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I can pop on my my Twitter handle in case anybody wants to connect with me.
Absolutely. And website, blog, whatever else you have, we love to promote people who come on.
Oh, I can give you my blog. That's a good idea. I can give you my blog.
Yeah, if you don't have it right handy, throw it in the chat or
just email me later.
Yeah, there you go. Email it to Frank. We'll put it in the show notes and we'll put it in the Discord channel as well. Are you on the Discord channel, Paul?
No, I'm not. So I absolutely want to get on there as well. So I'm I'm posting them into our private chat because I'm not signed in, so I can't participate in the chat. But there you go. Now I'm there twice, and there's my blog as well. So yeah, I've been writing articles for various sites for 20 years or something. So you can go there and have a look at my different articles.
Awesome. Yeah, we will make sure everybody is made aware of those. Absolutely. Cool. Well, don't be a stranger. Come on again. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Good. Thanks, everybody. This was a lot of fun. Oh, USS Enterprise. It took me all the way till the end. So I'm trying to look at your T-shirt. Which one is it?
Sorry. Just USS Enterprise. It's the original.
The OG?
The 1701. No.
Yeah, 1701. Yeah.
No letter designation. But is that the reboot image or is that the OG one?
No, that's the OG.
You fit right in, Paul. You fit right in.
Yeah.
Oh,
I appreciate your.
Nobody commented, but you got your
Millennium
Falcon there. You got your X-wing over there, and that's the space shuttle over there.
Well, I did mention that at the beginning when you were like you went out the door right before you came back in. So I don't think you heard me, but anyway, I didn't want to repeat myself in case you're like, oh, I just don't care what he says.
I mean, that's us all the time. Yeah. Apparently, the new episode of Picard, season Picard, they're going to show the Enterprise F.
I'm done with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with it.
I saw it in the trailer.
You know what, Rod? Don't
be too old.
All right.
We gotta finish the series. We're gonna get the whole cast back. Okay, everyone's gonna get back. Worf's gonna be there. Just try to be in an upbeat mood. Okay.
Waiting for Scotty. Yeah.
Until next week, everyone.
All right. Have a great week,
everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, by the way, Frank, we need to get like an ending audio thing for our podcast.